Ethan spent the evening moving from one small repair to another around the house, his hands busy, but his mind wandering through the void the past year had left behind. The kitchen was quiet, save for the gentle clatter of dishes as his mother, Linda, washed them with deliberate care, trying to hide the exhaustion behind a composed smile. Finished tightening the last screw on the old cabinet, grateful for the distraction, a task that demanded no explanations, no attention to the ache Emily had left in his life when she walked away without a word. The stillness in the room felt thick, almost suffocating, until a sudden awareness of his mother's quiet endurance hit him. She had carried so much on her own, her worries, his heartbreak, and the emptiness that now filled their home. Without thinking, Ethan moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. It wasn't sadness driving him, but gratitude for the way she had kept everything together while he unraveled. She tensed for a heartbeat, then gradually softened into the embrace, hands still damp from the sink. Instead of the reassurance he expected, a shaky breath escaped her, and he pulled back just enough to see her face, tender, anxious, burdened with secrets held too long. "Ethan," she whispered, voice trembling in a way he hadn't heard before. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago." His heart leaped, not in fear, but in the sharp rush of uncertainty that comes when life is about to pivot. "What do mean, Mom?" he asked, keeping his voice calm even as the floor seemed to tilt beneath him. Turning off the faucet, drying her hands slowly, she met his gaze with eyes full of regret and love intertwined. "Not here," she said softly. "Sit with me." The weight of her tone made him realize this wasn't a trivial memory or a forgotten detail. This was something far deeper, something tied to months of hidden pain. They moved to the dining table. Ethan sat, tense but alert, sensing that everything quiet and unresolved from the past year had led to this moment. Linda, hands trembling slightly, placed a worn, wrinkled envelope on the table. "This came the week after Emily left," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "It was addressed to you." Ethan's pulse quickened. A letter from Emily. Why hadn't he seen it before? "She asked me not to give it to you," Linda explained. "She wanted to protect you. Didn't have the strength to talk directly. I thought waiting would spare you pain, but now I realized I only prolonged it." He lifted the fragile envelope, trembling in his hand, the weight of unanswered questions, sleepless nights, and confusion, all condensed into the single letter. But before he could read a word, a knock echoed through the house. Soft, deliberate, familiar. Emily's voice followed, gentle and uncertain. "Ethan, are you home?" His heart froze. Over a year had passed, and there she was. Ethan opened the door to the winter wind, and the memory of a past he'd tried to live behind. Snow dusted her hair, her cheeks flushed with cold, her eyes, the hazel he remembered so vividly. "Ethan," she whispered, hesitant. "I didn't know if you'd even opened the door." He barely found words caught between relief, anger, shock, and the ache he had carried for months. Linda appeared briefly, smiled softly, and stepped back, giving them space. Emily's awareness fell to the letter in his hand. "So, she finally gave it to you," she said quietly. Ethan swallowed hard. You knew she would, one day. I hoped she would, Emily admitted. I couldn't say everything back then. I didn't leave because I stopped caring. The wind nudged the door again, and Ethan invited her inside. The door closed with a soft thud, leaving them in a quiet, charged with unspoken truths. Why are you here? He asked, voice raw, honest. I owe you the truth, she said. I couldn't let another year go by pretending walking away was best for you. Ethan felt the sting of her words, the reopening of old wounds, the honesty he had longed for. Emily explained she had left because her father had fallen gravely ill, pulling her into a world she didn't know how to navigate. She hadn't wanted him to sacrifice his future for her, thinking disappearing was the only option. Ethan listened quietly, fingers gripping the letter, processing the revelation. Relief, frustration, and empathy twisted inside him. You should have trusted me, he sighed softly. Emily nodded, tears forming but not falling. I made the wrong choice, she admitted. He was scared, overwhelmed, and convinced disappearing was the kindest path for both of us. For a long moment, silence filled the space between them. Truth had settled like a weight, heavy but necessary. Ethan felt a subtle release. Not forgiveness yet, but understanding. Linda watched from the hallway, quietly hopeful. Ethan looked at Emily, the sincerity in her eyes undeniable. Admitted, didn't know what the future held, only that they could start with honesty, step by step. Together they moved toward the living room, not reunited as a couple, but as two people ready to face the past, instead of fleeing from it. The night felt different, open, offering the faint promise of healing, closure, or a new beginning. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt ready to face